And today we have the wonderful pleasure of having Dr. Dylan Jenkins as our very special guest. Dr. Jenkins is a doctor of chiropractic and also a practitioner of functional medicine and applied kinesiology.
A lot of people come in, they're like, hey, I got a lot of low back pain. It's running down both my legs. And I say, okay, well, how many times do you poop a week? Like, what are you talking about? You know,
this is my first time meeting you.
yeah. Like, I'm not going to share that with you, right? And I say, you know, well, if you're constipated, you could be having a lot of pressure in the bowels, and that's irritating the nerves that come out and kind of create lower back pain too.
Do you see a common trend in terms of what people get wrong all the time in terms of their own healthcare?
Yeah, I always like to share this with my patients. If all of my patients drink half their body weight in ounces of water per day, general rule of thumb, but you've probably all heard that before, stretched and moved your body and went on a walk, I'd be out of a job.
Yeah. It's crazy with all of the energy drinks that kind of invade our culture right now, how sometimes the best solution ironically might just be a glass of water.
So when I first used BEMER, I was the biggest skeptic. And then I started seeing the results in the community and the results of people and the change. I'm like, oh wow, like maybe there's something to this. And I can honestly say that I know that it helped with my stress between where I was at my undergraduate studies to my graduate studies. The stress levels were way down. My sleep was improved. The second I used the BEMER, the day I broke my ankle, I drove to my practice, I got my BEMER, I brought it home and I started BEMERing it. And immediately, crazy tingling, crazy amounts of sensation when I was using that BEMER. And I was like, oh wow. Like that was a huge aha moment for me.
Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Longevity Lounge. My name's Ben.
And I'm Kaylee.
And today we have the wonderful pleasure of having Dr. Dylan Jenkins as our very special guest. Dr. Jenkins is a doctor of chiropractic and also a practitioner of functional medicine and applied kinesiology.
And today he talks all about longevity, what keeps his patients coming in and seeing him, and how to live your best and healthiest life using different modalities like BEMER and how he uses those in his practice. So we're so excited to dive in today. And he talks to us a lot about things that you might not think affect your health, like hydration. So let's dive in.
Awesome. Let's do it. Okay, welcome, Dr. Jenkins. Such a great pleasure to have you with us on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, we're really excited to jump into your story and your experience in healthcare and well-being. You've got an interesting journey because you're a practicing chiropractor and you've got your own clinic, which is wonderful, but your entry into there was kind of rooted in a number of other disciplines, applied kinesiology and functional medicine. Can you talk about how those three integrate and provide a unique perspective in patient care?
Sure, absolutely. So I think many people in society are familiar with chiropractic. Maybe they've been to one, maybe their family members have been to one. I think even kind of a double-edged sword with chiropractic is that there's so many different directions and different types of chiropractic out there, and not all of them are the same. So, you know, a common thing that I hear from my patients that may come in is, you know, hey, I've tried chiropractic before, it wasn't a good fit for me. I'm like, well, you tried someone's chiropractic and what they did for you, maybe it wasn't a good fit, and that's okay. You know, I've kind of delved into the world of applied kinesiology, or AK for short. And what applied kinesiology is it's kind of a branch of chiropractic. And what it basically is we want to test and identify how well the nerves leave the neck, how well the nerves leave your lower back, how well they can actually go in and communicate to muscles. So if we find that there's a muscle weakness or an inability to do a certain activity, we know that it can correlate to a certain part of the spine. So it helps us identify what adjustments and what work might need to be done to help them get the proper care, which I like a lot. The other fun thing with the applied kinesiology, or the AK, is that, again, we can use these muscle tests to actually identify imbalance inside the body. So we can identify, you know, hiatal hernias. We can identify, you know, if a gallbladder or liver's got congestion, or there's some sort of viscerosomatic reflex. The common example I share with my patients a lot is if you're having a heart attack, that heart can refer pain to the jaw and to that left shoulder. If you come to me as a chiropractor and I adjust your neck and I massage your shoulder, it's not going to help you. Right?
Totally.
I mean, it's pretty common sense, right?
Yeah.
Right. So all of our organs in our body can refer pain and dysfunction just like the heart can. And they do it to certain areas. So we can use AK to try to help identify what might be going on inside the body that might be creating some of your low back pain. A lot of people come in, they're like, hey, I got a lot of low back pain. It's running down both my legs. And I say, okay, well, how many times do you poop a week? They're like, what are you talking about? You know,
This is my first
well,
time meeting you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to share that with you, right? And I say, well, if you're constipated, you could be having a lot of pressure in the bowels, and that's irritating the nerves that come out and kind of create lower back pain too. So we look at it where everything's tied in together, right? And then that's what really kind of moved me into the world of functional medicine as well, which is more the nutritional based stuff, right? It's our treating root cause medicine rather than reacting to symptoms. And something I like to share with my patients is, we're not bashing on the medical system. Like every doctor goes into the field, or nurse or whoever, everyone goes into medicine with the general goal of helping people. They're incredible, selfless people. And I think that the current healthcare model is very reactionary. Right? Oh, you're going to have high blood pressure, elevated blood pressure. Okay, well, now that it's gotten so bad, we're going to put you on a pill to try to control that. Why not get ahead of it before it even gets there, right? Let's look at what's creating the problem, what's creating and elevating the blood pressure, and fix that so that it naturally comes down. And that's where functional medicine comes in, is it's treating the root cause and trying to identify the root cause. So, that may include blood chemistry workups, that might include some of the applied kinesiology, that might include some other, measurable tests that we do in the clinic. We're just having a conversation with the patient.
Yeah.
A lot of times if you can listen, they'll tell you what's wrong. You just gotta listen and ask the right questions. So, again, when it comes to like chiropractic, applied kinesiology, and functional medicine, to me, they all kind of meld into one for myself. And again, it was pretty much everything I learned outside of school. Like chiropractic school gives you the foundation, teach you how to pass tests, teach you how to get your degree, pass your boards. But they don't necessarily teach you how to like be a good doctor for your patients. That's something that you kind of learn into what avenue you want to go. And again, that's kind of the double-edged sword with chiropractic, is you can go so many different ways. So if someone may not have worked well for you, a different guy or gal may do something different that works well for you. Yeah. Again, I think that goes with all healthcare, really, though.
Sure. I love the proactive approach that your discipline takes with kind of patient care, right? Because so often it is reactionary, like you were saying. If people have a problem, they go to the doctor to find a solution. Yeah. But I love this principle of taking responsibility for our own well-being and getting to the root cause. And I've heard this saying kind of multiple times: people aren't willing to change until the pain of the problem becomes greater than the pain of the solution. So I love that in getting to the root cause, the real issue. People can really lead from the front in their own wellness journey and have greater confidence that a holistic approach to care is being given and better solutions. When you have people coming to you as patients, do you see a common trend in terms of what people get wrong all the time in terms of their own healthcare?
Yeah. I always like to share this with my patients. Something that I kind of laugh at, but I say, if all of my patients drink half their body weight in ounces of water a day, general rule of thumb, right? You've probably all heard that before. Stretched and moved your body and went on a walk, I'd be out of a job. Like in most cases, barring some sort of big injury, like I'd be out of a job. Like people would feel good. They'd be doing awesome. They'd be, mitigating their stress. They'd be lowering their blood sugars. They'd be hydrating their body. So I always tell people that like the habits that you can form and like getting into small wins really make a difference. And the other thing that I like to just open up a person's perception to is what we do for us today is going to benefit us 10 years from now. So if you want to, be a healthy 40-year-old that's still running and being active and, playing with your kids or going and doing activities that you love, if you're being a bum right now, it's going to make it really difficult 10 years from now to be there, right? So you got to be proactive. Like a person's health is not going to happen by accident. You have to take a proactive step and actually work on it. It doesn't, there might be some, right? There might be some rare people that just happen to have good health, but most people have to really work for it. that you don't just accidentally fall into.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to kind of lean into some of these points that you raised. It's kind of a sobering reality, right? When you say, look, if you just get mobile, move your body, stretch, and stay hydrated,
Yeah.
that could solve the vast majority of their struggles there. I want to touch initially just on hydration, because it's scary the percentage of people in the world today that are dehydrated and don't even realize it. And maybe some of the symptoms that they're experiencing, they put or attribute to other health conditions, when in reality, the solution might be as simple as drinking more water. What are the typical symptoms of dehydration that show up in a patient?
Yeah. I'll comment on what I typically see in my practice. I've seen it just this week. I had 5 people come in with vertigo and dizziness.
Mm.
We measure their blood pressures, and a lot of them are not great. So dehydration usually is going to dramatically impact a person's blood pressure. So we look at blood pressure, again, dizziness, lightheadedness, really low energy, poor bowel movements, long-term downstream, right? Again, if you're not hydrating in the bowels, it's harder to have a bowel movement, as weird as it may sound. We talk about this a lot in my practice, make it normal. But again, like if you can better hydrate the body, you see that those energy levels change. You're going to start urinating more. You're going to start eliminating more. Again, I think one of the cool things that when we talk about BEMER is we want to just help the body kind of do its job better. And, we got to be putting in the right things to also help our body do better. And I think water is such an easy thing. And this is just a quick note. I mean, you ultimately want to try to get a clean water source, right? Not all water is equivalent. Not all water is equal. You want to get as clean a water source as you're able to. Drinking out of a plastic bottle may not be the best solution. Might be better than what you have, but we always want to have a person opt for the cleanest source that they can get their hands on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where do you generally tell people to start with that? I mean, we're lucky enough, Ben and I live in Utah, and so we have like amazing spring water that we can just, go find from the nearest mountain. But if you're not in Utah or close to a spring, what do you generally tell people to start?
Yeah. You can buy filters that you can have. So Berkey is a filter that I've recommended to a lot of my patients. It's kind of a counter one, or you can store it in your refrigerator, but it's a gravity dripped filtration process. People can get the reverse osmosis, if they want to have those types of systems installed. I typically have people kind of lean away from Brita. Brita filters might be okay, but again, they're very limiting. So I like to have my patients opt for like the Berkey, or if they can afford some sort of a reverse osmosis or a way or plug-in, right? There's a lot of great solutions.
Yeah.
We can have them do that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, gosh, improved energy, improved bowel movements, improved, I guess, just you're saying kind of tension or blood pressure as well. All of these types of things kind of compromise us when we're dehydrated.
Yeah, and there's one more, if you don't mind me. It's as a chiropractor, I get to work on it. I get to see this every single day. The tone of your muscles, how tight your muscles are going to be, directly correlate with your hydration. So muscles are on average about 60 to 65% water. If they're dehydrated, they can't be happy. They're going to tighten up. They're going to get really sore and achy. You're going to get those trigger points. They're not going to be able to do their job very well. And obviously that can create, muscle aches and pains and stuff like that. So again, that's, low hanging fruit for a chiropractor. How do you forget that, right? Muscle tone is such a huge thing too.
Yeah. It's crazy with all of the energy drinks that kind of invade our culture right now. Yeah. How sometimes the best solution, ironically, might just be a glass of water.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And energy drinks and stuff, like people may opt for them. It's not something I ever recommend for my patients. We want to just try to get more of, the natural stuff. We want to eliminate the sugars and just try to get your body stuff that's not going to jack up blood sugar and insulin changes, and, try to keep well balanced. Yeah.
Yeah. So certainly you integrate BEMER as well into your practice. And how does that integrate with the services that you offer your clients, your patients?
Yeah, so I've been super blessed. I was able to open my practice March 1st of 2020, right out of chiropractic school. I opened my own practice, and then like 5 days later, COVID opened up behind me.
Oh
Right.
gosh.
So timing wise was kind of insane. So the thing that I was really blessed to have though was the BEMER community that I'd already been a part of. So I was doing a lot of public speaking and answering a lot of questions and being able to be a part of people around and in my community. So that was kind of a saving grace for me because it allowed me to already have relationships with people. And I've got, 950 patients or something in my practice. And I can honestly tell you that I use BEMER on every single one of them.
Mm.
Every patient that comes in, I use BEMER because at the end of the day, whether they believe it, I know that it's going to help them. I don't charge people for it. It's a part of my services. I want people to get better. And, it's kind of a fun thing. A lot of people, again, they're looking for things that they can do at home. They're like, so, hey, I love going to your office, doc. Like, I love getting your sessions and I love the BEMER therapy, but I want to be able to do this when I'm not at your office, right? So that's where it could be a fit for them to make it kind of a lifestyle change and bring that in. So it goes with every patient, every single treatment care, every case, whether it's low back pain, neck pain, or if it's constipation, anxiety, people that are just having really, really tough times with their health journey, low energy, like we'll use it on anyone in any
Mm.
case. Headaches, obviously, vertigo just this week, multiple cases. And I found tremendous success with it.
Yeah. So what's the connection then between BEMER improving the blood flow and helping the body perform better? And maybe I'm asking a very obvious question here, but just in case there's anyone slightly dim in the audience, yeah. But what is the connection between the way BEMER improves the blood flow and the treatments that you're providing or the ailments that people are experiencing, like you just mentioned? How does the one alleviate or serve the other?
It's a great question. When I share BEMER, whether it's at a meeting or if it's one-on-one, I tell people, whether you feel BEMER or not, you're getting the benefit. I know that the BEMER is going to help you. But, to the extent in which that benefit may occur is going to be different for people. They may have a more dramatic impact right away, whereas someone it might take 2-3 weeks to maybe 2-3 months, depending on what their journey is. And I like to encourage people like, don't give up. We're always here to help. We're trying to increase blood flow. Why would that be important? Well, in your blood flow, you bring all the good nutrients in, right? So we want to be bringing good nutrients in, delivering it to the cells. And then when the cells get all this good stuff in, what do they want to do? They want to eliminate the bad. So then they get rid of all the junk out of the body through proper circulation. When they come into my practice, let's say I got someone with lower back pain.
Mm.
And again, I've talked to chiropractors, however you guys want to do your flow of your clinic, by all means. If I got a patient that comes in and they've got a really bad low back to the point where they can't hardly move, I'll be doing BEMER with them first with the goal of increasing blood flow into those tissues and trying to help them relax and mellow out before I even get them on my table. For a more, maybe not such an acute case, my clinic flow, I always put the person on BEMER afterwards. We do a lot of adjusting. We do a lot of muscle work, fascial work, right? We're going to do some stuff that's going to maybe make them sore. And BEMER is going to help promote increased healing. Right? They're going to have the benefits of BEMER for 12 to 18 hours after. And the other thing is that, when we're doing chiropractic care, it's a big change to the nervous system. If we decide to do an adjustment, I want that patient to have 8 minutes on a BEMER, to take some breaths, to relax before they drive 75 miles an hour down the road, trying to get home through traffic. Take a minute to just let that whole body kind of calm down. I love that for my patients so that they're not in such a rush. Go, 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 go. Everyone can just take a second. I think that helps as well.
I love that. That's a nice feel-good experience that as they leave, they're already in a better state emotionally as well as physically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So from your perspective then, you've worked, you said all of your patients use the BEMER in the treatments that you provide.
Yeah.
Without breaking doctor-patient confidentiality, are there any experiences that you could share with us that kind of highlight the success stories or the outcomes where someone's come in and had an incredible experience?
Yeah. Oh man, there are so many. Um, I, this is kind of an interesting one. A lot of people, when you're looking through a room, when you're in public, a lot of people are wearing these fashion pieces over their ears and on their nose, and they're wearing
Mm.
glasses, right? Ben's got glasses on
Yeah.
right now, right? Most people aren't born with the need for glasses, right? Some small percentage of people may have, a misshapen lens or something that, they needed some sort of an eyewear that might help correct that vision problem. But most people, it's as we age that they need this support. They need this crutch, right? My vision changed. I used to bartend and, I'd have cheaters behind the bar and people are trying to read that menu, right? And they can't read it and be like, hey, you need some cheaters. And I'm like, yeah, you wait, turn 40 overnight. You're going to be just like me. And, it's kind of funny because the retina and the macula, they're two tissues in the body that they're the most metabolically active tissue in the entire body. What does that mean in English? They need lots of oxygen and nutrients. They're very sensitive to a lack of it. So if they have a lack of good blood flow coming into that tissue, the health of that tissue declines. The organ of the eyeball declines. So I always tell people, I say, look around the room. Look at all of the people that may be having a disturbed circulation over time. And that kind of like light bulbs moment, and they're like, I'm like, okay, now that's happening all over your body. You can see it, but that's what's happening all over our body. Your eyes are just the most sensitive tissues. That's typically going to be the first place where a person will see it. But yeah, it happens everywhere. I think it's it's just kind of a fun thing for people to be kind of aware of and maybe use as an example in the future.
That's crazy.
That's pretty
Yeah.
profound.
Yeah.
Yeah. And any personal experiences for yourself? You've used BEMER for a long time. What's been your personal journey there?
So when I first used BEMER, I was a 23-year-old perfect health guy, right? Yeah. So I didn't need BEMER. I was the biggest skeptic. I learned about it through my parents, Tim and Michael Lee Jenkins. They introduced it to me, and I was like, "Hey, cool, mom and dad. Like, I'm glad that you're getting these benefits. That's not anything I need." And then I started seeing the results in the community and the results of people and the change. I'm like, "Oh wow, like maybe there's something to this." And I started using it regularly, and I learned about it almost right when I started chiropractic school. So the entire time I went through chiropractic school, I was lugging my BEMER bag around, giving my colleagues sessions, introducing it to the faculty and the administration, doing all this. And I can honestly say that I know that it helped with my stress between where I was at my undergraduate studies to my graduate studies. My stress levels were way down. My sleep was improved. And I felt like the actual therapy while it was running until I broke my leg. I play soccer every Sunday. I love playing club teams and stuff, and we play in a relatively competitive league. And I had someone slide tackle me, and I broke my ankle. And I was in a walking boot for 11 days. And the second I used the BEMER, the day I broke my ankle, I drove to my practice. I got my BEMER. I brought it home. I started BEMERing it, and immediately crazy tingling, crazy amounts of sensation when I was using that BEMER. And I was like, oh, wow. Like that was a huge aha moment for me, because when you guys break a bone, bones have a lot of blood, a lot of blood flow goes out, a lot of swelling, injury rate. Sprain an ankle, the swelling typically shows up the next day. So the faster you can get on a BEMER, faster we can speed up your body's natural inflammation process to get the tissues healing. And my big story that I'm able to share is that I didn't miss a single day of working with patients. I was able to work on patients the very next day after I'd fractured my ankle, and I was out in the walking boot in 11 days. And it was absolutely insane. So after that, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody needs this. Whether you're injured or not, be proactive in like keeping your body happy and healthy, which is, I can honestly tell you, I use my BEMER every single day. It's in my bedside table. It's just a part of my lifestyle.
I love that. Yeah. So you've had incredible experiences in your practice with your patients, and clearly a strong conviction because, as you mentioned, all of your patients use the BEMER, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you've had your own personal success story for the chiropractors that are listening, that are new or less familiar with BEMER. What would be your thoughts or recommendations to those that are listening that are coming from your field of practice?
Yeah. So, how is BEMER classified in the eyes of the FDA? Healthy leg muscle stimulator. Okay. Well, if we want to look at it in that broad scape, why would a chiropractor have benefit of that? Well, chiropractors, a lot of times they use stim or e-stim or TENS units, and maybe people can get some benefit from that. I don't use it in my practice. But there are billing codes, there are ICD-10 codes that you can use to bill, so that could be something that would be of an interest for a doctor chiropractic to know, which is great for the business aspect of things. That's cool. But why would you want to use it for your patients? I mean, ultimately, we know that when you use BEMER, it interacts and makes a positive change at the muscle. That's been proven. We know that. We know that we increase blood flow when we're increasing oxygenation in tissue. We're increasing, the metabolic waste and the movement of some of that stuff through the venular blood flow. So why would a chiropractor want to jump on board? Well, they need it for their patients. I don't know if you know this, but chiropractors get injured by working on people. It's a really demanding thing on our bodies. So I always tell people, I'm like, God, you need it, man. You need it more than your patients do. Because if you're not healthy, you can't help your patients. And I approach it with them that way. So now let's go and let's assume that they own one, right? So maybe they're using it with themselves, maybe they're using it with their family. Obviously, they're going to want to use it with their patients because they're going to hopefully have already been seeing benefits and change. So now if you start using it with your patients, again, we want to speed up healing. We want them to be able to get benefits when they're not in the office. How cool is it that when you use BEMER, you have at least a 12 to 18 hour residual blood flow benefit? So that was one of the bigger, things for me. Is like, cool. I love to work with patients. I want to be able to help them when they're with me, but how can I help them when we're not together? Well, BEMER helps them the rest of the day. If they come in for an 8 a.m. appointment, they're going to have that blood flow benefit and heal all the rest of the day. So I think that was a really cool thing for me too, to be able to say, at the end of the day, we want our patients to get better. Who is going to refer more patients and make my business better? The patient that gets really better that I don't see very often, or the patient that has to come in and see me 3 times a week for 6 weeks before they start to notice a benefit. Patient that gets better right away.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh my gosh, you got to go see this guy. He's got this technology. The stuff he does is different. Like, it feels so much better. I was like, that's the business model that I wanted. I wanted to be able to help people get better really, really fast. And again, BEMER's a perfect fit for me with it.
Yeah. And it's not just helping people get better fast. It's giving added service and benefit that goes far beyond what anyone else is offering in that space, right? So, when you talk about, I'm here because I want to help people feel better and live well, you're redefining what better looks like doing this.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting viewpoint. What is your better?
Yeah.
What is your goal? Like, where do you want to be? Right? Do you want to just have your low back pain gone? Cool. We could do that. You want to live a happy, vibrant, resilient life that if you get a cold, who cares? You're going to kick it to the curb and be good in 2 days. That's the life I want for my patients. That's what I want for me. I don't want to be sick. I want to continue working and being with my family. I want to be with my friends. I want to be out in my community. If I'm interacting with lots of people on a given week, I come into contact with viruses and bugs. I want to be healthy and resilient where it doesn't knock me down.
Yeah.
Like better, what is your better? I think that's a good question.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think everyone has a different baseline for what they think healthy is, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's cool to incorporate BEMER. I know you talked about the effects of BEMER being better if you have a better baseline. So if you're hydrated, if you're moving, the effects of BEMER are better for you. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. We were talking with Dr. Ricarda Jansen earlier, and she talked about, she referred to BEMER as a lifestyle companion. And I almost see this, as we're talking here, as a treatment companion as well, because it's enriching and improving the experience of the treatments that you're giving. Like you said, from the front end, people can go on the BEMER and get the blood flowing in the right way, kind of improving the way that you want it to before a treatment, and also after a treatment as well, when there's been work done to help calm them down, to help relax them, to help get the mind a little more at ease and set them off on their journey home, feeling emotionally rejuvenated as well as physically improved.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting that, again, I tell you, I use BEMER with every patient. I have other therapies, I use other things in my practice. Here's the cool thing, and this is what I would love to share with chiropractors. And anyone, really, anyone. It doesn't have to be chiropractors, forget that. No, I mean, the thing is, anything you're doing, any therapy, any nutraceutical, any lifestyle thing you're doing is only going to benefit when you use BEMER. Because like, if you want to like break it down, what is BEMER trying to do? It's trying to help your body do its job better. That's it. So if you're going to drink great water, well, let's better hydrate those tissues. If you're going to be eating good fibrous fruits and veggies and lean sources of good protein, grass-fed proteins, right? We want those good, healthy fats coming in. Let's make sure you're absorbing them. Let's get the blood flow to the digestive system so you absorb your nutrients better. All of that stuff's just beneficial when you use the BEMER. So again, if you're doing other therapies, you're doing other things, that's awesome. Continue doing them. BEMER can only help it. It can't hurt anything.
It's kind of like an amplifier, right, of the good stuff. Yeah. Well, what about any examples of who should not use the BEMER? There's got to be some people out there that maybe there's some contraindications or some complications with their body that maybe could interfere with that. Any insights there?
Yeah. What I've seen, there's the big ones they're acknowledged by the company, right? You got your contraindication for, organ transplant. If you have an organ transplant and you're on active immunosuppressive therapy, English, if you have an organ transplant, you're taking a drug to not suppress, the potential rejection of that. We don't want to enhance the potential of that. So I've had a couple patients that have had organ transplants where they're not candidates to use. Other than that, known like deep vein thrombosis and complications come in, where I was very suspicious of a potential blood clot. They were a person that I didn't use BEMER on that day. And I said, hey, you really need to get this checked out. I want you to go to your primary care doc or go to an urgent care. Like, we want to make sure that you're going to be okay. So that was a couple like incidences. But other than that, I mean, it's so easy to use, so safe to use. I haven't had much of any other issues.
Yeah. Now, there's a number of different PEMF devices out there in the marketplace. How would you say BEMER compares in its classification here to others that are out there?
I've looked into a lot of the others. I've tried some of the others. I think there's a misconception's maybe not the right word. There's a perception issue in that more is better. And that's just not the case, right? So, some of these other these other PMF devices, they're going to advertise and they're going to talk on, oh, well, we do way more energy output and there's more energy in the body, which creates X, Y, Z. And I always say, well, please show me the research. I'd love to see the research. I think that's something that BEMER is extremely strong in, is their publications and their research and being able to say, hey, when you use BEMER, we're increasing vasal motion at the precapillary sphincter. We can prove that. There's research to show it, right? And the other thing is I've had personal testimonies in patients that have come into my practice that have maybe a certain autoimmune condition that they came in, we were treating using BEMER, some other pharmaceutical therapies, and they got great results. And then they went home and they purchased EMF device and they got jacked up really bad. And they came in 10 times worse than where we started.
Wow. Because
their nervous system got totally thrown out of it. And I think that's what's been really fun is, again, these other competitors, you might actually get muscle twitching. You might really feel a pulse that's going in. I would argue that that's not always good. maybe for some people in certain circumstances that could be beneficial. And don't get me wrong, all these other PMF devices can be helpful, but why are we using BEMER? We're using BEMER to increase blood flow and help actually promote a healthy environment on the inside of the body, right? We want our bodies to be not in a fight or flight state. We don't want to ramp the nervous system up where they're so wired that you can't sleep. That's some of the other problems I've seen with patients using these other PMF devices, is that their sleep patterns can become really, really big issues. And the other thing to even make note of with BEMER itself, again, more is not always better.
Yeah.
Right. So I share with people, because I have BEMER rentals, and I share and I get to talk with people on BEMER. I say, if you use your BEMER and you're more sore after, dial it down. Listen to your body. You got to be intuitive. It's too much. So, lower is sometimes better than high. So I always encourage people to try to be really intuitive, see how they're feeling, seeing if they're more sore. If you got a sore knee and you did your BEMER on a high, and it's more sore now, well, that's your body saying don't do that, right? Back it down. Listen to the body. And again, I think that goes with all of them. But again, for me, when I was looking into them, it needed to be safe. For me, I had to have the scientific credibility. I wanted to make sure that I could give a positive benefit when they were out of my practice, and that I truly felt good about using this product with my patients.
Yeah, and that classification that BEMER's got as a class 2 medical device, not everyone in this space has that classification, right? What is required in order to get that classification that gives it that extra strength and credibility for you?
Well, yeah, they're the only PMF device with the class 2, right? The class 2 clearance. So what goes into that? Well, again, it's got to be safe. Mm-hmm. It's got to provide therapeutic benefit. And there's got to be the research that backs it to show that it's doing exactly what's claimed to have been done. So once it has those classifications, it can move up from class 1 to class 2, right? No other PMF devices in the United States are of class 2 cleared. So again, I think that speaks volumes for BEMER and its ability to be able to be used. And again, shared with people as saying, BEMER is doing something that no one else in the market is actually doing at this time. And I think that, again, it's just so darn cool that there's research that's been done on PMF literature. That's great. BEMER doesn't use other PMF literature when we go to reference the potential benefits of it. We're going to go back to the studies that have been done strictly with BEMER, not PMF in general. And I think that's where it just stands so far apart.
Yeah. And I think your point as well of stronger doesn't always mean better, right, in terms of frequency.
Yeah.
But when I first got my BEMER, I came home, I'm using it, I get my wife on the BEMER, and she goes low, medium, high, right? And she goes straight, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, obviously stronger is better, right? I said, no.
Yeah.
Start low, get your body used to it, work your way through. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on that? You mentioned some of the side effects or challenges that other PMF devices deliver when they're trying to flex and say, here's a stronger signal, but in reality, it's not necessarily beneficial, but they're maybe leaning more towards the psychology of the uninformed consumer. Am I right there?
Yeah. That's a great way to say it. Because not many people are very knowledgeable in the world of PMF. I think it's gaining a ton of popularity, and people are really open to wanting to know what else they can do at home, right? And I think a lot of these companies have great marketing. Say, oh, well, we've got a sinusoidal waveform that goes with the sawtooth, and it's better because it can be overlaid on top of it, and it can go between XYZ Gauss and energy outputs, and they're doing all this mumbo jumbo. And again, I always just go back and be like, well, show me the proof that where's the research to claim, like show anything that you're claiming, right? And I go back, and when it comes to BEMER, you had mentioned it, as your wife's example, right? And this is, I think, Americans, in most cases at least, if low is good, high must be great, right?
Just send it.
Just send it. So we're going to send it. I'm all in. Yeah. And I have people put it on max, doc. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So again, as you're learning, I always encourage people, be skeptic, be a healthy skeptic, get your questions answered. Don't blindly believe anything, you should want to be genuinely curious and learn and go to the actual literature, go to pubmed.gov, go to scholar.google.com, like go to these credible sources where you can actually review the peer-reviewed literature, the stuff that's been published, rather than Google, where anyone with a keyboard can type whatever they want, and who knows if it's credible. I like to go to I put people, hey, go and actually form your own opinion, and then we can have another conversation if you follow.
Yeah, I just think that's huge because there's so many people that will get dazzled by fancy words and lingo that they don't fully understand, but it sounds impressive and bigger is better and let's go hard or go home, right? And that's an uninformed and often unwise approach to healthcare. Yeah. We want to be proactive. We want to be intentional. But I love this, this theme that really is emerging here of just keep it simple, 8 minutes twice a day, have it at the right frequency, and just be consistent in your wellness habits that will just over time serve you. So that, as you said before, make the decisions now when you're 40 that will reward you when you're 50, right? Yeah. And likewise, if you're 50 now, reward you when you're 60.
And we've talked about that too. Ben and I use BEMER every day. And I think my favorite part of using BEMER is that I get to lay down and I get to close my eyes and, think about nothing and maybe hum a little bit. We talked about that with the episode with Dr. Jansen, kind of just get in the zone and just let my body do what it needs to do. And I think using those high-powered devices, it doesn't look very relaxing. Watching people's, muscles jump out of their arm, it just seems really intense. So I think that's probably the best part from my experience about BEMER, just being able to relax and let it do what it does.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of value in that. I think when I share with friends and family and patients, I tell people ultimately, like, BEMER is going to be a change to your lifestyle. You're going to want to do it because you feel better, right? We think teeth are good. You should want to brush your teeth, right? It's going to become a part of your everyday habit, and you're going to want to do it because you understand that this is good for me. And I don't want to get sick, right? So like you're saying, what's more relaxing than being able to lay down on a BEMER? BEMER's got the frequency and it's music that can play, which can be very soothing and awesome for the nervous system, or turning that off and just working on diaphragmatic breathing, right? Taking some time to get into a zone with your phone, right? Take 8 minutes for yourself a couple times a day and just kind of recenter yourself. I think is a cool thing too, as you're saying, the ability to lay down in a passive therapy or a passive modality and let it do all this benefit to you, I think is a very fun thing.
Yeah. I just know when I was younger, I always wanted to go big in my decisions to make change in my life, right? So if I saw a new opportunity or if I wanted to make a particular goal come to life, it was always magnificent effort and overwhelming commitment and, run 1 million miles an hour and all that kind of stuff. And as I've gotten older, I've just realized actually keep it simple and just be consistent. And because if we can't maintain it over time, then no matter how good it is, it's not going to serve us well, right? So, I think the importance here is not just that you get optimal performance with 8 minutes twice a day, but that 8 minutes integrates into the typical lifestyle of a busy person nowadays in a way that is uninvasive, that is easy to execute, easy to sustain, and helps you feel pretty pleased with yourself for doing something that is so simple but can be so rewarding. Yeah.
Amen.
Well, hey, Dylan, this has been fantastic having you on. We've loved hearing your experience, your insights with your practice with functional medicine, with every iteration of how you take care of a patient. And it's nice to hear it from the context of a chiropractor as to how we can reach out, do something different with our lives to make sure that our journey with longevity is a respectful one and a rewarding one. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.